Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Office of Consumer Credit Commissioner's stakeholder meeting to discuss licensing rule amendments for regulated lenders. My name is Matt Nance, and I'm the OCCC's General Counsel. I'm joined by other members of the OCCC staff, including Commissioner Leslie Pettyjohn, Director of Licensing, Finance, and Human Resources, Moran Diamond, Licensing Manager Ginger Harmon, Assistant General Counsel Audrey Spalding, and Paralegal Nico Fisher, who's acting as our meeting organizer. We're holding this meeting through an online webinar, and I really want to thank everyone for joining us. Getting input from stakeholders is a really important part of our rulemaking process, and these meetings help us make sure we produce the best rules possible. So our webinar platform is GoToWebinar. Some of you might be listening on your phones, some might be watching on a computer, and some may be doing both. For those of you watching on a computer, there's a questions window where you can submit comments to staff. If you have technical questions about using the webinar, you can type those in that questions window and Nico will try to answer those. We're discussing a pre-comment draft of rule amendments that's available on the OCCC's webpage for recent and upcoming rules. On that webpage, you can see the draft rules by clicking the link for regulated lender licensing rules. If you have any comments on the rule amendments, you can go ahead and type those in at any time, and I'll be getting to those in just a few minutes. If you're on a computer with a mic, there's a function allowing you to raise your hand if you would like to make a comment verbally. So these are amendments to our licensing rules for regulated lenders in Title VII, Chapter 83 of the Texas Administrative Code. In general, the purpose of the amendments is to implement the OCCC's transition to the NMLS licensing system. So first, I'd like to do a high-level summary of these draft rule amendments and then lay out the proposed timeline for the rules, and then you'll have a chance to provide comments. So as I said before, these rules would implement our transition to the NMLS licensing system. In the past few months, the OCCC's begun moving license groups to NMLS from our previous licensing system, ALEX, including regulated lenders. This is a project that the OCCC identified in its most recent strategic plan, and we believe it's an important project for improving overall user experience and promoting efficiency, particularly for companies that might work in other states or that hold licenses with both the OCCC and the Department of Savings and Mortgage Lending, where NMLS could be a sort of one-stop shop to handle the company's licenses. Following the NMLS transition period for regulated lenders, new license applications are being filed in NMLS, and going forward, regulated lenders are going to maintain and renew their licenses through NMLS. So in general, these rule amendments streamline and simplify the current licensing rules and help ensure that the rules provide guidance on information that we expect to see in NMLS going forward. Looking at some of the rules at a high level on license application terminology amendments to the definitions rule at section 83.301 would replace the term principal party with key individual to be consistent with terminology in NMLS. Section 83.302 with license application requirements would be amended to streamline those application requirements and refer to instructions that the OCCC has published through NMLS. Section 83.303 on transfer of ownership and license transfer would be amended to ensure consistency with the NMLS, For example, changes to the identities of a single company's owners would be handled through the advance change notice process I'm about to discuss. And then there are also some changes to how the license transfer process would work. Section 83.306 would be amended to describe notifications that a licensee is required to provide to the OCCC. Subsection A would describe advance change notices. That's a term that is used in NMLS to refer to notices that a licensee must provide on or before the date of the change. These are things like the legal name of the company, the names of owners, or the addresses of branch locations. Subsection B would describe other notices that must be reported within 30 days of the change, such as civil or regulatory actions, criminal history changes, bankruptcies, or data breaches. And then subsection C would continue to specify a licensee's responsibility to maintain updated contact information, while also explaining that the OCCC may send notices to the mailing address or email address on file. Continuing with the licensing rules, section 83.307 would be amended to specify that the OCCC may deem an incomplete application to be withdrawn and specify a time period for requesting a hearing on the denial of an application. Section 83.309 would be amended to explain that a license surrender is effective when the OCCC approves it. And section 83.311 would be amended to remove a reference to original documents with a license application, since the OCCC no longer accepts original paper documents. Section 83.402 concerning license displays would be repealed as no longer necessary. Section 83.403 on license renewals would be amended to explain that a licensee must maintain an active account in NMLS or a successor system in order to renew a license. And finally, section 83.404 on criminal history review would be amended to explain that the OCCC will obtain criminal history through NMLS and to use the term key individual. So that's an overview of the licensing rule changes that would implement the NMLS transition. And again, the overall idea is to streamline and simplify the rules to ensure consistency with NMLS. So that's the summary of the draft amendments. Here's a proposed timeline for the rule amendments. You can see that we're requesting informal pre-comments by tomorrow, October 8th. We intend to propose the amendments at the Finance Commission's October 24th meeting. There would be an official comment period during the month of November. We'd present the rule for adoption at the Finance Commission's December meeting, and the rules would be effective in January. This is, of course, a tentative timeline, and all of this is subject to the Finance Commission's approval of the rules. So with that, I've summarized the rule action, and I'll open things up to stakeholder comments on the rule amendments. Again, there are two ways to provide your feedback through this webinar. First, you can type your comment out and send it through the webinar's question feature, or if you're on a computer with a mic, there should be a function allowing you to raise your hand. Also, if you have a longer written question, please feel free to type a quick message into the question field and GoToWebinar explaining that you have a longer message. So Nico, do we have any written questions or comments through the webinar?
Yes, we do have a hand raised from Mr. Carl Gallant.
Okay. Can we unmute Mr. Gallant? Let him provide his comment.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I can. Oh, thank you, Mr. Nance. First of all, thank you for putting on the webinar and for giving everybody the opportunity to offer pre-comments. I had a specific question I want to raise about the proposed changes to section 83306B regarding other required notifications. And just make clear, Carl Gallant with McGinnis Lockridge on behalf of the Texas Consumer Finance Association. So this particular section of proposed changes here, historically, there's been a requirement under current rules to provide notice within 30 days of knowledge of several items, which includes actions by regulatory agencies and court judgments. And this section's being reformatted a little bit and adding some additional requirements. And I want to speak particularly to civil or regulatory actions in proposed new B1. And a concern that I have about how that reads now it seems that the proposed change could capture civil actions that have just been filed or regulatory actions that are in process and have not risen to a level of a judgment or order or some final action. And it doesn't appear to be tied to anything related to license activity or what may have had been disclosed in the original application. Previously, I think the relevancy of these types of court judgments or regulatory actions needed to be disclosed if they would have changed an answer that was given in an original application. And here that's changing a little bit. And so the concern I have is that this could require, as written, a licensee to disclose, for instance, a divorce proceeding about a key individual or a real estate dispute or something that has just been filed that is meritless and has not resulted in any kind of final action or judgment. And so I wanted to know if your office has given any thought to that language, and I'll file some written comments to this effect with some proposed changes to kind of bring it back to where the prior rule was. But I wanted to raise that because of the potential for licensees to think that they've got to report a number of unnecessary and irrelevant actions.
Okay, thank you for that comment. And yes, if you have any suggestions, I do encourage filing a written pre-comment. I do think kind of from a high level, we are looking at items that would have affected the license application, or even if they are new actions that might require those different answers and that kind of relate to the regulated activity. So yeah, if you have any kind of suggested changes to clarify that, that's something we'd appreciate seeing. That would make it helpful for regulated companies to understand what they need to provide. Okay. Any other questions or hand raises?
Matt, there's no questions or hand raised at this time.
Okay. Well, I do want to make sure if there are any other stakeholders who want to provide a comment or question that you have a chance to do so. I'll wait. Oh, and like I said, if you have a longer written comment that you're typing out, please feel free to submit a shorter message that you're typing something longer. I'll wait 1 minute just to see if we have any other hand raises or questions in the chat. Oh, looks like we have something coming in. Okay, so question from Ann Bador. Would these changes have any impact on information currently available through public information requests? So that's a really good question. I don't believe this would, the NMLS transition generally affects that. My understanding is that the information might look a little bit different or have a maybe different kind of form, but at a general level, my understanding is like public information requests for licensee information, we would continue to, this isn't going to change what information is or is publicly available and which information is confidential. Those changes would happen by statute through the legislature. And yeah, my understanding is we would generally continue processing public information requests. It's just the information might be in a somewhat different format, because what results from that might be kind of information formatted from NMLS. But yeah, that's a really good question. Generally speaking, my understanding is that the information might look a little bit different or be in a somewhat different format than with our current licensing system, ALEC, but it should be the same information. This doesn't change what is and isn't public or confidential. Oh, Commissioner put in a written comment reminding me that some information is available on NMLS Consumer Access. So there is a public facing website called NMLS Consumer Access. And yeah, the public, consumers or other stakeholders can access that information directly and don't even, before they even necessarily go through the public information process. So thank you for that reminder. Okay. Well, we don't have any other questions or hand raises. So I will go on to our final slide. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for joining us and participating. Rule updates are available on our website. We'll also be posting the audio of this meeting, and we are accepting written pre-comments on these rules until 5 p.m. tomorrow, October 8th. Please email those to rule.comments@occc.texas.gov, which is our email address for rule comments. Thank you all for attending. Please be safe out there, and we will see you next time. Thank you.